Welcome to grade ninth. Today we will discuss about a beautiful poem, The Road Not Taken, which is written by Robert Frost. Before I enter into the summary part of the poem, I would like to give a brief idea about the poet. This is one of his great pick, Robert Lee Frost. He was born in 1874 and died in 1963. He was an American poet who was much admired for his depictions of the rural life of New England. His command of American colloquial speech and his realistic verse portraying ordinary people in everyday situations. Frost was awarded with so many prestigious prizes and he was honored by the Lifetime Achievement Award. And he has given a beautiful introduction about this poem. In this poem, the Frost wants to express that the road symbolizes our life. The poet says that the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. He describes his feelings about the choice that he made left in the past. The path which we have chosen decides our future, our destination. The important message that the poet wants to give is that the choice that we make has an impact on our future, and if we make a wrong choice, we regret it but cannot go back on it. So we must be wise while making choices. Now, this is the first stanza of the poem. Before I enter into the summary part of the stanza, I would like to read the lines. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Now, the summary of the first stanza. Once the poet was walking down a road, and then there was a diversion. There were two different paths, and he had to choose one out of them. The poet says that people have been living for many years. They represent people who are older than the poet. The poet standing there and looked at the path very carefully as far as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or not? He was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was covered with the trees and was hidden. It happens in our life also. We have to choose the correct path. We have alternatives, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and cons, whether it is suitable for us or not. And also then we take a decision on what path we have to choose. Now, the second stanza of the poem. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for that, passing there had warned them really about the same. Now, the summary part of the stanza. The poet kept on looking at the one path for a long time to check if it is the right path for him or not. And then he decided and started walking on the another path because he felt that both the paths were equally good. He says, just as fair. So he felt that both the paths are equally good and started walking on one out of them. He added that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it as it had grass on it, which means that it was unused. Not many people and had walked on this path earlier. That is why this path was grassy. And wanted wear means that it had been worn out the same. Both the paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. Now, this is the third stanza of the poem. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now, the summary of the stanza. The poet says that both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that day he walked could take one path and keep the other path for the another day. Although he knew that one way leads on to the another way. He knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the another path or another option that we had left earlier. Now, this is the fourth stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Now, the summary of the stanza. He says that in the future he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in the life that there were two options for him, and he travelled on that road which had been travelled upon by lesser number of people. That decision about his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time, when you were young, you had two options. The choice that made you what you become of it. This is a very strong message for all the students that they should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the option that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choice that you make today. So, this is a beautiful poem which is written by Robert Lee Frost, and he has included some literary devices in this poem. Let us discuss some literary devices which the poet has used in this poem. Metaphor, alliteration, personification, repetition, consonance, and assonance. These are the literary devices which the poet has used in this poem. So, with this, I will conclude my today's session. Thank you.